time now to talk through the stories making the headlines today. And we're joined by Nick Ferrari and Bev Turner. Good morning to both of you. Lovely to see you both today. So we're going to be talking about the vaccine. We seem to be talking about this an awful lot at the moment, but this is in conjunction with this passport, this immunity passport that could mean bars, cinemas and football stadiums could turn away Brits who have not been vaccinated. They're saying that this is a way to kick-start travel again, that we can all go away. Bev, what do you think? Is this a good idea?
No, it's a terrible idea. I think if you want to get the vaccine because you are in the high-risk category, then of course you should just get the vaccine of your own free will. My fear is that it won't just end with coronavirus status. If we are asking everybody in this country to have a device, whether this is on your mobile phone or whether this is something that you literally carry, I doubt it will be. It will be some sort of technological reality for us. You will have to declare all sorts of things. This will not end with COVID. If they can get you to declare your status for a disease, which 99.7% of people will survive, then there will be others that you will also have to declare, whether that is your HIV status, whether that is your diabetes. This, for me, is just the tip of the iceberg. I don't like it at all.
And, Nick, the government allegedly... There's so much rubbish written about this stuff now, because you get to the point where you're not quite sure what anybody has actually said. The government has said vaccinations will not be compulsory in the UK, but immunity passports could mean bars, cinemas and football stadiums could turn away Britons who have not been vaccinated against coronavirus. Speaking this morning, Michael Gove said vaccine passports would not be required to visit the pub, and nor was he aware of any discussions taking place on such an idea. Is this just, again, one of those rumours that set fire and started burning?
No, it's actually on my show that Michael Gove said that. If we back up a little, this was as a result of Nadhim Zahawi, another Conservative minister who's effectively the vaccine minister. He floated the idea, and let's just stress, it was only suggested that maybe we would be in a position that if you wanted to go into a pub, if you wanted to go into a theatre, you would need to show possibly the same sort of app. It would be downloaded that you'd actually had the vaccine. When I put this to Michael Gove later today or this morning, and I said, look, effectively, no jab, no entry. No, his argument is we need to do everything we possibly can to persuade the population. And Phillip, you and I have spoken about, I think you and I are going to battle, aren't we, in the studio for as soon as that vaccine becomes available.
Oh,
and I think
am absolutely without question. I mean, obviously, this is my other point, because, yes, I would quite happily put my hand up. I'd be first in line. I'm there.
Absolutely.
However, if listening to what Nadhim Zahawi said, there could possibly, this might be a thought. I just thought, hold on a second, because if we are going to quite rightly vaccinate the most vulnerable, and then people above 80, and then people above 70, and then people above 60, and you gradually work your way through. So that means that in the scheme of things, if it comes to going to a bar or a restaurant, then people who are in their 20s, 30s and 40s, it'll be the summer before they could even go to the pub, if we follow what he's suggesting.
And that's why that's why it's unworkable, in all honesty. And the reality is that I don't think any of us... Well, I hear what Beverly says. I think it's a little far-fetched that this will effectively be like a tracking system. I really can't subscribe to that. But the idea that it is made mandatory, compulsory, is wholly wrong. I don't think you'll find any government minister, not least there are people who are genuinely needle-phobic, and there are people whose religious beliefs mean they do not allow themselves to have vaccinations. I don't want to live in a country where you can't go into a theatre or you can't go into a pub unless you have been forced to have a state shot. Having said that, I urge all of your viewers, as I urge my listeners, unless you have outriding health concerns, get this vaccination as soon as you can.
Well, listen, you don't need a vaccination to go to the pub and have a drink in Tier 2. According to Environment Secretary George Eustice, he says you need to have a Scotch egg, which is a...
George, what was he?
Eustace.
Oh, Eustace.
Eustace.
OK, Eustace.
That constitutes a substantial meal, apparently. And the thing is, yes, it's quite funny talking about Scotch eggs in this way, but the problem is, for pub owners who this is a real reality for, they're accusing government of providing no clarity, actually, on what a substantial meal rule is.
Though, I mean, hold on a second, that is quite substantial. You know.
I mean, it's quite a sturdy thing, isn't it? But there is no kind of real rules here for them to turn to, really. No clarity. And that word clarity has been used a lot throughout this pandemic, Bev.
It has, and in fact, I heard this interview. This was also on Nick's show yesterday morning, and it was classic Nick Ferrari. He was being a little bit mischievous, and he did get George Eustace to really sort of take a position on whether this was a main meal. You know, we are joking about it, but as you say, Holly, this has a genuine impact for publicans, for people who own these small businesses which are closing daily. Tragically, the local pubs, while the huge multinational companies are doing brilliantly out of this lockdown. Amazon profits are up, Facebook, data harvesting. You know, we were talking then about the app, that part of that is about the fact that data is very, very valuable, and that's what part of this is about. But it is the year that 2020 when satire died, because we're sitting here discussing the merits to ease your appetite of a Scotch egg. Heston Blumenthal famously has a Scotch egg in his repertoire, and he describes it as a snack or an appetizer. So where are we going to go with this? I mean, if I was a publican...
Well, just going to ask for three. That's quite substantial.
Yeah.
And Nick, in the first time round, Nick, there was an issue with pasties. I remember pasties. You couldn't have even though pasty was a substantial meal in Cornwall when they were invented first of all to feed tin miners. So they would say that was fairly substantial. But you had to have a salad with it, and then it became substantial.
That's right. That again, and thanks, Beverly. I agree with everything she says. The reason that we highlighted this yesterday was to show there is not the clarity. Just as I don't think there's enough clarity for your viewers now in Kent. How do they get out of 3 to Tier 2? Your viewers in Warwickshire, how do they get out of Tier 3 to Tier 2? This isn't, and it's the same for restaurateurs and pub owners. What actually constitutes a proper meal? And when I asked Michael Gove, he actually said, you're not going to believe this, guys. He said, if you have 2 Scotch eggs and some pickle, that is a substantial meal. And he's sort of second in line in the government. So this is what I'm trying to get at. There is just too much confusion.
It really is. Let's talk about something different, because somebody who was confused with the rules, possibly. We don't really know what happened, but she's obviously very apologetic about it now. Pop star Rita Ora has offered to pay £10,000 fine after throwing an inexcusable 30th birthday party with 30 of her friends. So, Bev, I mean, a lot of people are saying, her mother is a nurse. She's previously donned a T-shirt that says stop the spread of coronavirus, that she's being hypocritical. What happened here?
It's such a strange story, isn't it? I think maybe what she's doing is she's illustrating the frustration that so many young people do feel right now. And back in April, May, when it felt like we were all fighting together for a cause that made total sense to us, and she wore her T-shirt, like so many people, we get to November, December, and there is a sense in which the liberties of the healthy are being so spectacularly compromised that she obviously thought, maybe there's a political thing. I feel this is the right thing to do. We don't know. She has apologised, which would suggest she wasn't making a statement. It was just stupidity. But, we all want to go out and see our mates. We all want to go out drinking and dancing and socialising. That's what it is to be a human being. But it does show a sort of level of arrogance, doesn't it? That she thought that she could get away with it. It's a bizarre story.
She could, because she's obviously a very wealthy person. She could have looked at it and thought, oh, to hell with it, I'll take the flak and pay the 10 grand and I can have a birthday party. Or she may have made a mistake. We don't know, as Holly said, either of those things. We don't know who's going to get that fine, though, because does this, what looks like a really rather lovely restaurant in West London, did they get the £10,000 fine? Nick?
Yes, obviously it has to go before the local magistrates, but the laws are that it would be the premises that would face a fine. I would suggest that probably Rita Ora, well, 2 things. If she had her time over, I don't think she'd hold that party. Clearly, she realises her mistake. I would suggest she's both going to cover the cost if there is a fine levied against. And if it's the first offence, there's a possibility that the police and the magistrates' authority will look the other way. But I think Rita Ora knows that if the restaurant gets hurt, she will pay that as well. And I would imagine and would hope money would go to the NHS. And I would just wrap it up. If she had a time over, I don't think she'd do it again. So we've all made mistakes along the way.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Nick. Thank you very much, Bubba.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.